Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Stars Like Us. I am your host, Aliza Kelly, and it is such a pleasure to welcome the one and only Scorpio Queen, Violent Benson, on today's podcast. Violet, I thought that we had like a very confident birth time, but as it turns out, we don't. It's okay. We can work with what we have. We're going to get into it. But what we know is that Violet is a Scorpio Sun. We think Libra Rising. We think Aquarius Moon. We're feeling confident about it.
I am Aquarius Moon.
Okay, perfect. I love that confidence. Violet is the creator of Daddy Issues and also the host of the podcast Too Tired to Be Crazy, meme queen, everything, just overall very starstruck, very excited to chat with you. Violet, hello. Happy Tuesday.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So the contention around whether or not you are or are not a Aquarius Moon is simply because it changes at the exact same time that you're like, is it 6:30? Is it 6:45? You were born on the edge of Capricorn Moon or Aquarius Moon. So like even an hour difference would change the birth chart, but you feel strongly that you're Aquarius Moon based on the attributes that you've read about.
Yeah, but also because of the time. Basically, well, I don't have a birth certificate because I was born in a third world country. I was born in Russia. So it's not like it was like on the top of their list to give us a birth certificate. And B, I remember I asked my mom specifically because the pattern, like you can't even be on the app, the pattern, unless you know exactly your birthday.
Really?
But yeah, because it continuously changes. Like if you don't know exactly your time, but my mom said it was still dark outside when I was born. So that's how we kind of, and she gave me around the time. That's why I'm pretty sure it's like in the 6 a.m. around that. But like 6 or 7 a.m. But though I think with that, the only difference with that becomes my rising. But I just know I'm not a rising Scorpio because your rising is the mask you put on that you want other people to see you as. And I definitely feel like I come off extra friendly, extra extrovert when I meet people. And that's when people get so excited to want to be around me. But then really my Scorpio Sun is like, okay, now I need space and I need to be alone.
Yes,
So like,
yes.
call me.
And honestly, that anecdote about like what the sky looked like is really kind of like a critical piece of information because, okay, this is the first time I'm ever doing this in the Stars Like Us history, but I'm going to try to bring up my screen so that you can also see your birth chart from my perspective, if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
Okay, share screen. Here it is. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah. Wow.
Does it look like my whole computer with my whole desktop showing and it's embarrassing, or is it just the screen?
Just the screen. So
Okay,
I
cool.
can't see all the
perfect. That's all I wanted to know. Okay, so for instance, so this is using the 6:30 a.m. time. And we have you as a 29-degree Libra rising. And the sun here would have been beneath the horizon line because this is actually the horizon line. So if the sun was over the horizon line, it would have been light outside, or it would have been dawn, like the sun would have been visible. But because the sun wasn't visible, we know that it's beneath the horizon line. So that piece of information is actually like really important. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So basically in Russia, the months of November and December, it's dark out. So the sun doesn't come out until I think like 9 a.m. So that's how I was kind of able to tell that because my mom said it was still dark out and when I was born. So that's how I was like, okay, so it's definitely not, it has to be before 9 a.m. And then she kind of gave me around like the time that she thought I was born. But like, that's why a lot of people, when they're born in Russia, when there's no sun out, like in November, you know how like people always say like Russian girls are really pretty, but they have fucked up teeth.
I didn't know they said that, but I love that.
Like Russian models, you'll see Russian models and they're so beautiful, but then their teeth are kind of sometimes messed up. So most likely they're like a Libra, a Scorpio, or Sag. And because that means they were born when there's no sun out. So like I was born with enamel deficiency where I have no enamel on my teeth. And it's literally because I was born when there's no sun out. And I was born with a birth defect and I had really bad yellow teeth, like no enamel. And I've had veneers since I was 5, which I've talked about before. Yeah, but it's part of like being born when there's no sun. So I was lacking vitamin D.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting. However, that is very fascinating from like a astrological point of view because Capricorn rules the teeth. So we know, okay, so regardless of whether you're a Capricorn moon or not, you have Saturn, which is the planet of, it's the daddy planet at 0 degrees Capricorn. 0 degrees is like the beginning of a planet's journey through that zodiac sign. It's called one of the critical degrees. So anything that you see in your chart that's at 0 degrees has extra importance. So it's like literally, I say this thing called tank, which means there are no coincidences. It's literally the most tank thing that you are sort of like the epitome of like Saturn 0 degree daddy energy. And then of course you have built your business using that as like the brand. So it's just, it's very interesting. But Capricorn it governs the teeth in astrology.
So what does that mean?
I don't know. Part of me is like, well, maybe you are a Capricorn moon, but I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to push it because
Capricorn moon goes if it was like 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m., 4:30 a.m. I wasn't born in that time. That's how I know. Like I think my only mix up is like my rising that I can't figure out because it doesn't make sense that my rising is Scorpio.
So I changed it. So this would be exactly if you were born at sunrise. If you were exactly born at sunrise, you would have had this Aquarius moon at 1 degree. You would have had a 23 degree Scorpio rising. So it looks like this would have been later than the time that you had given me, of course. So if we go back to the edit chart data and we put in the time that you gave me, which is 6:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Then you are a 29 degree last degree Libra rising. You are a 0 degree Aquarius moon. So if you were born literally at 6:15, you would have moon in Capricorn because the moon switches at about that in that same exact hour, which is why
I'm definitely higher up.
Okay,
I'm definitely higher up. Like my mix up is whether I was born 6:30 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. Like that's my mix up is the 2 hour difference of 6:30, 7:30 or 8:30. Like I can't tell. That's my mix up.
Got it. Okay, cool. So if you have, we know that you now have a Libra rising and an Aquarius moon. This means that you have the same rising and moon as Britney Spears. I just want to put that out there as, just a piece of information that you can take, work with, do whatever you need to do with.
What's
do you relate to Britney? Her sun is Sag.
Oh, okay. And wait, what did you say? We have the same?
You would have the same rising and the same moon as Britney Spears.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like a lot of people, I think it's more weird to have a Scorpio sun and Aquarius moon than it is to be a Sag sun and an Aquarius moon. I feel like that makes more sense, and to have like a Libra rising, like it makes sense to me. I feel like if anything, like my chart has more air in it than it does water. And I think that's why sometimes I come off a little different than like other Scorpios.
So yes, I mean, also if you have Scorpio in the first house, which you do, you have the sun in your first house, that is your sense of self. Like this is a much more visible Scorpio than I think Scorpios are often given credit for. So even though obviously Scorpios love privacy and they love, being able to allocate, like, these are the things that I'm going to share publicly versus these are the things that I'm sharing privately. Because you have Scorpio in the first house, you are also like very much living your Scorpio life publicly for people to see.
Yeah, I can see that.
So my question for you is, how did you first start exploring your own astrology? And then follow-up question is, I would love to know about your Saturn return, because Saturn is obviously, as we know, daddy stuff, your brand, daddy issues. I will give you some dates on this. Your Saturn return was late 2017. So I would love to know what was going on in your life at that time, / how does astrology play into your life?
Okay. Well, the reason I know about, I got into,
I just moved it away. It's
okay. The reason I got into zodiac sign stuff is actually because I was doing research on it sarcastically, which I do that sometimes, where I think something is kind of silly. Like, for example, one time everyone was watching that one movie Twilight, and I was just like, I'll watch it sarcastically because it looks stupid. And then I watched it sarcastically and then I read all the books because I got into it. So it's like, it's kind of like, so it's kind of the same thing. I thought of like zodiac signs are kind of silly. So then cause like literally all my exes are not compatible with me now that I know zodiac sign stuff. And then I started to look it up sarcastically because some people wanted me to talk about zodiac sign stuff for my podcast. So then I kind of went along with it. And then I kind of got into it. And then suddenly, because my brain took in all this information about all the different zodiac signs, because I was doing podcasts for it and I get really deep into research, I remembered it. And then suddenly I started to care. And then suddenly I'd be like, oh, I could never date a Libra. And I'd be like, oh, what's your sign? And I'd be like, no, we can't date because we're not compatible. So then I got kind of into it. So I'm pretty into it now.
Honestly, I co-sign that Libras are really a hard sign for you.
I agree. I don't think I can't, but I feel like I've read that you can date people that are like, if someone's a Libra, but their Venus is in Scorpio, we can potentially date because I'm a Scorpio with my Venus in Libra.
Well, the thing that I would be worried about with a Libra sun is that Libra is in your 12th house, which is the area of the chart that is associated with like secrets, hidden things, invisible stuff, psychological things. So oftentimes when someone's sun sign falls in that area of the chart, we are just generally like very paranoid about the relationship. We end up being sort of like, we end up bugging about things that may not even actually be existing, but because they're activating and sort of like we are compatible on this psychological, non-physical, like non-really tangible level, it starts to get a little bit dicey. So I try to avoid people from dating in their 12th house because that's usually when people end up like doing secretive, dodgy things with each other. However, what's interesting is that your Venus is in Libra in the 12th house. So it's possible that like you are also drawn to people who fall into that area of your life.
Who are secretive? Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty secretive.
So I think that if we knew exactly the exact degree of the time, it would be fabulous. But even without that, knowing that Libra activates your 12th house, like Libra people are going to make you feel very sort of psychologically, intuitively like what's going on. There's more to the story. There has to be more. There has to be a reveal. Like there's something that's being held back.
I've never dated a Libra. I don't care for them. And to be honest, usually Libra girls kind of irritate me. Like, not like some of them are great, but a lot of times I'm just like, what are you up to? What's great? Yeah, I guess I'm like, what are you up to? What's going on? I just feel like I'm always like, they're just like, they move a lot and they're just so outgoing. And I mean, so am I. Usually things that you get irritated by other people are characteristics that you have in yourself. So it's like, I have those characteristics. So maybe I can't handle like someone else being as outgoing as me. I don't know. But like normally, like I don't have Libra girlfriends.
I also am like not surprised that you don't too, because that the way that it illuminates your chart would not be in a way that would make you feel safe. However, Aquarius is like very, very, very good for you. I love Aquarius for you. I love Aquarius as a sun sign. I love someone with an Aquarius Venus in particular, because if you're an Aquarius moon, someone with an Aquarius Venus is going to be like, oh, I'm so attracted to the way that Violet needs to take care of herself.
That's sweet. I actually am more drawn to like, a lot of my friends are Sagittarius or Aries. I think I do have some Aquarius friends. Like I'm always more drawn to, and like I have Leo friends, Leo guy friends. So like I'm always more drawn, I would say, to like fire signs because I resonate a lot with my Scorpio Sun and my Aries Mars. And I feel like that's like both are really strong in my chart or just in my personality. So I definitely resonate with those two signs like a lot. And then dating wise, it's hard for me to actually date water signs.
Well, Aquarius is an air sign.
I know, but I was just thinking of water signs because I'm a Scorpio, so I should be dating water signs.
Not necessarily. I mean, you do have a lot of water in your chart, but sometimes what happens when there's too much of the same element is that it gets kind of like, especially with water, it gets kind of murky. Like, for instance, I was on this podcast, which was hosted by a Cancer and a Scorpio, and it was all about how they're both perpetually single and how they are unhappy to be perpetually single. And I was like, you guys know that you're like enabling each other in this. Like, you are not going to meet someone if like you are building your whole brand around being perpetually single. And they were like, whoa, like never thought about it like that. But that's like two water signs. We're like, I'm in my feels. I'm in my feels. So sometimes I do think it's really good to have different kinds of energy activate different areas. And yes, I'm obsessed with your Aries Mars. I'm so envious of an Aries Mars. My stupid ass Virgo Mars like is so meticulous, is so like, man, it has to be perfect. Like I can't do it. It has to be, everything has to be right. An Aries Mars that just like, let's just go, let's do the thing. I mean, that's literally what you said when we started. You're like, let's just start recording. Let's go, let's go.
Yeah.
Like love Aries Mars, obsessed with it.
Yeah, but also like I read about Aries Mars and how like, well, I also read about how Aries Mars are in when it comes to love, even though it's my passion. And it just said like how I like when men pursue me and all these things. And I'm like, oh, that's so true. And I am very unpredictable. I kind of like, my motto is ask for forgiveness is kind of my motto. Like I rather do something and then deal with the consequences later. That's always been how I'm in life. Like I've always been a rebel growing up and I still am right now. And I feel like a lot of times, even in dating, you can throw off guys because I'm very unpredictable. And like, I can be hot and cold because I feel like of my other signs or just my personality. And then suddenly my Aries will come out and I'll be like, should we just make out right now? Like, or like, let's do this. And then I'll be like, what? I thought you hated me. And I'm like, well, not right now. Like, I just want to have fun.
So let's talk about your Saturn return a little bit. If you can go back in time to late 2017, Saturn would have just entered Capricorn. It would have been exactly activating your natal Saturn at 0 degrees Capricorn. So this is like December 2017, January 2018. That was like the crux of your Saturn return.
I would say 2017 was around the time that I publicly came out as daddy issues. I wasn't anonymous anymore. I think. So maybe that's where my career was changing a little with daddy issues, or was that when I got really depressed?
Was it that time, or was it when I was really
one
depressed?
of those? Because I did battle with depression sometime into, it could have been actually when I was like my most depressed self. Would that make sense?
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, I think I struggled with like depression. I couldn't understand yet because I didn't understand my emotions yet fully. I think I battled depression and I like gained weight towards the end of that year. And then I would say like it took me a couple of months to figure out like what's happening. And then I finally like came out of it. Yeah, I think actually that makes sense because I have an episode on my podcast about depression and I read a poem that I wrote, and I think the poem was towards the end of 2017, and it was just about like, I remember I didn't know I was depressed until I came home and I sat down and I wrote a poem, and then when I read the poem afterwards, like the next morning, I was looking at it and I was just like, I don't recognize this person because this person sounds like so depressed, so suicidal. And I was like, is that like, I was just like, holy shit, like I am depressed. Like, how did I not realize that? And then I remember I told my mom about it. And then once I told my mom, and I've talked about it on my depression episode, is that like the minute, because I hold everything in, and I'm sure a lot of other people are like that too. But the minute you say something out loud, you're no longer a prisoner to that secret. So once you say
that's true,
you set it free. So I felt depressed and I was holding it all in. And then once I said it to my mother, it was like a relief, like I'm not a prisoner to depression. Like depression, it doesn't have to be a part of me anymore. And then I got better because I worked through it. And that was probably one of the lowest times. I mean, I feel like I've had other low times, but I tried really hard to better understand. I would say that's where some of my Capricorn or Aquarius, I don't know, some of my stuff goes in, but like it's actually my Aquarius. I need to understand the logical meaning of everything I feel. Like I just like, I get emotions, but I need the logical understanding. Like I can't even if someone hurts me, I need to sit back and understand why they hurt me, where it's coming from logically in order for me to get over it. So it's the same thing with depression. Like one day I sat down and I was like, okay, I need to do more research about it, especially before I did my Too Tired to Be Crazy episode about depression. Like, I don't want to be sad anymore. That's the name of the episode. I think that was that one. And it was like, and then I did so much research and I found out like, okay, you can be sad you can feel depressed, and then you can be depressed. So it's 3 different categories. And now throughout my life, after 2017, I kind of now, whenever I'm feeling down, I will analyze myself to better understand, like, okay, what am I feeling right now? Am I depressed? Okay, am I depressed? Did I get out of bed the last 2 days? Have I smiled? Because it's like those little things that you think are not a big deal, they are. Because if you're very depressed, you haven't gotten out of bed. Like getting out of bed is a mission. So I was like, okay, no, I have been. Like I've been in bed a lot, but I have gone out of bed. Okay, have I laughed or smiled at all? And then it's like those moments like, wait, I have laughed the last couple of days. Okay, so I'm feeling depressed. I'm not depressed. Okay, there's more hope. And then I just go to being sad and then I'm happy again. Like it's just, I don't know.
So in 2017, when you were like, when these feelings were surfacing for you and you were starting to work through them, I think from an astrological perspective, what's interesting is that this is ultimately you becoming your own person and you growing up, you sort of like differentiating self from where you come from. But what's interesting, especially about at least the timeline that I'm familiar with in your story, is that daddy issues and your success came pre-Saturn return. You were doing that before you were 29, is when you were already like building your daddy issues empire when you were in your 20s. So then come Saturn return, which is when you have to sort of isolate like what I want versus what am I reacting to that I thought that I wanted. That's really what the differentiation is, and the deviation between thinking like, okay, how do I do stuff that I think I'm supposed to be doing versus how do I do stuff that I really feel inspired to do?
Yeah, well, I think like if I really think about it, I think maybe 2017 was also the year where the Viners started to take over Instagram. And I think before that I would say the reason I probably got famous and popular on the internet before the Saturn thing came through and I knew who I was is because Leonardo DiCaprio quoted this. I forgot what the quote is, but he said something about like people want to see you kind of at your worst in a way. And I think a lot of times the people who do get popular, famous are usually people who are going through problems, because it's much easier to admire someone that it makes you feel better about your own life, because like they don't have their shit together. And as much as people sit there and they want to pity some celebrities that are going through stuff, the reason they like those celebrities so much is because they don't have their shit together, and it makes you feel like your everyday life is not as boring or is not as bad. So I think the reason I was able to become popular is because I was searching who I was as a person. I was a mess and all that, and a lot of people could relate, and a lot of people could feel better about themselves. So because I think if I would have started off like right now, where I'm more sure of myself, it would have irritated a lot of people. Instead, I think the reason I'm able to have the fan base that I do, and like the amazing daddy issues team and like daddy issues family that I have, is because a lot of these people got to go through the whole growth process with me, where I didn't know who I was. Daddy issues was my alter ego. Then eventually I became daddy issues. I was like, I am daddy issues. And then as the years went by, I felt like I have outgrown daddy issues again, and she became my alter ego because I'm so much more grown than her now, and like more confident and know who I am. But it also comes in when you turn 30. Like that really helps too. But that was like later down the line, not 2017, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, and totally, like, I think that it's really sort of in that same vein, like, it's really interesting to build your business, build your popularity, build people's impression and experience with you based on you as sort of like an unwhole person, right? Like you as still very fragmented and being like, oh, this is an alter ego, but now I am this alter ego, but now I'm not this alter ego. So how do you reconcile these things today? Like on the other side of 30, on the other side of Saturn return, how does like daddy issues show up in your life in a way that feels healthy for you?
I would say in a way that I'm aware now that I don't have to put on a mask every day. I think especially a lot of people, when you play a role when you play a role on TV, it's sometimes they have to be like, okay, wait, I'm not this role, and you have to snap out of it. I think it's the same thing when you have an online persona. You eventually, like, I think when I was younger, I was constantly daddy issues, where even when I didn't know how to turn it off. So I would act toxic, and a lot of things I found funny because I'd be like, oh, I can write about this later. And I didn't understand that I'm dealing with like regular human emotions, and it's not funny in real life. Like things that are funny on the internet, they're not funny in real life sometimes. So I think it took me a while to kind of be like, how do I turn this off? And it was like a whole struggle for me throughout the years to kind of figure out when I'm working and when I have to turn it off. And I feel like now, as I've grown more as a person, daddy issues, I can separate it. She's my alter ego. And it is hard though. Like even my podcast persona now is kind of a lot who I am. I think honestly, to be honest, I sometimes it's conflicting to me where I can't figure out who I am. Like, am I this therapist? That's all, like I'm like this therapist person from my podcast. So sometimes I can go out and then people are drawn to me, and then suddenly I sit there and I listen to their problems and I take on their emotions and I try to help them, and I'm drained from it. Or I'm like in my daddy issues where it's like this fun outgoing person. It is really hard, to be honest, sometimes to be an online persona, because I'm a very intuitive person, and like I think about everything. I'm an overthinker. So sometimes I take on other people's emotions, or I take on my job's emotions. And then sometimes I have to sit and I have to be like, who do these emotions belong to? Are they mine, or they're someone else's? Is it my work's emotions? And I have to like separate it all. I hate being an overthinker. I get really jealous of people that are not, because I'm like, their life must be so much easier. My mom always says that people who are not as smart have a much easier life, because
I would probably say that's true.
You don't stress as much. I think about everything.
Well, I mean, I could imagine that that's really, really hard, especially because you're dealing with people projecting their shit on you all day long.
And I'm very intuitive, and I take on other people's emotions. And I've had friends before that I've had to stop being friends with them if they were very negative or constantly intense with me, because I would say, like, you don't understand, I'm taking on all your emotions. And so I remember my friend and I just had a recent breakup, and she's an Aries, but she has so much water in her chart, which is actually overwhelming for me because she has so many feelings, and I'm a little more logical when it comes to feelings. I'm just so detached from my feelings. It takes me a while to process them, like my Aquarius Moon also being Russian and daddy issues. But like, yeah, we kind of had a falling out because she was always so intense, and she's going through stuff, which I could tell she just doesn't know she's going through it yet. I tried to explain it to her. She took it personally. And I was like, okay, I guess it's up to you to figure it out. But I was like, you're so intense all the time. And she was like, if I tell you something, why can you just like hear it and then let it go? And I was like, because that's not who I am. And every time you tell me something, you're complaining or your intensity with me, I take on your emotions and then I have it in me. And it's like, those are not my emotions. I shouldn't be carrying all your emotions all the time. And I don't know how to separate that. Like, I haven't figured out yet how not to take on other people's emotions.
Well, I mean, in my experience, because I'm a Pisces moon, I'm really intuitive. And obviously my work is working with clients and talking about astrology and talking about like really, really intense stuff. And I love to do that work, but that work is also very traumatizing for me, because that work ultimately came because my mom is an addict, So like I had to learn how to be with someone and sit with them and be like, okay, let me absorb all of this so that you could just be normal for a minute, which is obviously not like sustainable. And when I have burnt myself out before, it's when I have just consumed emotions, consumed stories, consumed narratives, and didn't process them and metabolize them. And you honestly, like, it ends up taking shape in your body. You can see someone who has not metabolized other people's emotions because they're really swollen, like they're really inflamed, weight or not weight. It's like the water weight actually really is it's such a sign of carrying other emotions that don't belong to you. So like, obviously, like, what sounds really bullshit, but like movement is really important. And like carving out time to be like, okay, I am dedicating 30 minutes to just like meditate, breathe, sit at my altar, think about things, light some candles, and like use your sort of like mind's eye to visualize the energy moving through you. But it has to be a routine, just like everything else. Like, just in the same way, like if you go to the gym once, you can't be like, oh my God, I have a fucking six pack. Like, duh, of course you're not going to. If you only do it once, it's not a practice. It has to be ritualized in order for it to be a practice. But if you're someone who, I think that anyone who has a large internet persona, but also just anyone who's in the public eye, like I highly recommend that as a practice in general, but especially because I'm sure that you're like, it's an onslaught of people dumping shit on you and you're trying to like parse through it, but obviously you're still getting that's still like percolating and like being penetrated into your psyche, I would imagine.
Yeah. And because of my Aquarius moon where I'm detached, it takes me a while to process it all. But I completely agree. I like, as you're talking in my brain, I'm thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, I feel emotionally drained because I'm like, well, I want to help everyone, including even when people are mad at me, or even when people are wrong and people have hurt me and everyone's like, stop talking to this person, they're terrible. I sit there and I'm like, I need to understand logically what they're going through. And then I even that way subconsciously take on their emotions, because I just believe in my life, I'm meant to help people, but I think sometimes I forget to take care of myself because I'm so focused on wanting to help everyone else. So like, I still respond to a lot of DMs where I give advice, and I even send voice notes to people on DMs to like help. And then with people in my life also, I'm just like, okay, how can I help them? And then I think, like, as I think about it right now, like I am emotionally drained, and I like that you said the movement thing, because I probably haven't been moving as much, because now I just feel like I need to disconnect so much more often than usual, where I just like watch a TV show or I just do a puzzle and I'm not even on my phone because I just need my mind to be blank. But I've been doing it more often than usual the last like 2 weeks, which I didn't realize until right now as I'm sitting and thinking about it. So I need to like snap out of it.
Yeah. And also, of course, with your Mars and Aries, like movement is like really, really important, you know, because it's literally Mars is your energy center, and the sign that it's in is how you process that energy. So like doing Aries things, like like doing competitive things is really important.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm so competitive.
Yeah. It's really important.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I love competition. I think competition is a really great way of feeling like, obviously, like toxic masculinity competition is a different story, you know, don't come for me, listeners. But I think that finding things that you could be safely competitive is a really good way of like setting goals and caring and like directing your energy into things that you can feel more, that you have more control over than the things that you don't have control over. You know?
I'm only competitive when I'm talking about competition. Like I love it. I mean, like games and things like that. I'm not competitive when it comes to like success. I'm more competitive with myself. I actually have this thing, which I think is really good, that a lot of people don't have, where it's very tunnel vision. So when I want to succeed in anything in life, including when I was an accountant, it was very focused on telling me I see no one else except me and my goals. And I'm only competitive with myself every single day, and I'm the hardest on myself. And even in accounting, when a lot of some of my coworkers, the females in my job, really hated me and were bullying me, and that's one of the reasons I created daddy issues and I stopped being an accountant. I remember I was sitting with one of my partners, I was in public accounting, and I was like, I don't understand why they hate me. I don't even notice them. I'm just so focused on working hard. And he was like, Violetta, that's the problem.
Yeah, that's exactly why they would hate you.
And I was like, oh, like I'm just doing my own thing. Like I'm just trying to become, I want to be a partner. And he was just like, yeah, but like they didn't, apparently I'm understanding it now. Like I think some of the managers in my job were like senior accountants. That's a step before manager. I guess maybe they didn't feel as respected because I jumped straight to like working with senior managers and partners, because it's like that was my goal, to become one. And I guess I skipped through showing as much respect or sucking up to the girls who were like a level or two above me, because I was just I'm so tunnel vision.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's like, you know, I think that people who are tunnel vision are usually the ones who are able to just get from point A to point B a little bit more seamlessly, because wasting your time like worrying about what other people are doing and trying to deal with like the niceties of like, you know, socially fitting into those environments and dealing with the social politics is literally a waste of energy. It is like truly like siphons energy.
Yeah, but I thought it was my Scorpio Sun, where I really don't like gossip. I find it boring. Like usually even, I would say I have a lot of masculine traits as well. Like when it comes to even communicating, usually the men that I date have a little more emotions than I do. Like I have emotions, but I process them differently. And like even with a lot of my girlfriends, they love to gossip, which I understand people quote unquote say it's very female thing. But like if someone tells me something, usually if they need advice, I'm like, I'm assuming it's a plan of action. Like it's hard for me to understand sometimes when people vent to me, because I'm like, okay, like for example, one time my sister called me and she was complaining about some girl. And as she's complaining, I DM'd that girl. And I was like, hey, why are you being rude to my sister? And my sister, she's talking, I'm like, oh, don't worry, I took care of it. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I just DM'd her. And she's like, what? Oh my God, why would you do that? Delete that. And I was like, wait, I'm confused. Why are you calling me then? And she's like, to vent. And I'm like, but what's the plan of action? Like how we fix it? And she's like, V, sometimes people just need to vent. There's no plan of action. And that took me a while to process that part. Because for me, I don't tell anything to anyone unless I need help with something. I just keep everything to myself. So like, and so when my friends sometimes call me and they're like, well, she said this and she said that, it's so hard for me to process it. I just get bored and I'm just like, okay, babe, I'll call you later. Because to me, it just feels like empty conversation. So I do think it has to do with my Scorpio sun, right? Where I just don't care for gossip, or I don't.
Yeah,
really
and I would say
understand.
this is another good argument for your Aquarius moon, because Aquarius, the last four signs of the zodiac, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, are not concerned about like gossip. They're not concerned about like little, small, like, bullshitty information and details. They're thinking on a higher level. And not, for any listeners who are in the first group, it's not that you're not thinking on a high level. It's just that it's different, like the way that information is processed when you're in Aquarius is you're thinking big picture. You're thinking, okay, well, what is the macro implications of this? Like, what does this actually mean in the grand scheme of things, as opposed to like getting kind of like caught on, like having your shirt get caught on something and you're like, oh, like it's stuck here. It's like, no, just take the fucking shirt off. Like, stop worrying about it. It's not going anywhere. So
Yeah.
Aquarius moon, my best friend is an Aquarius moon. I love Aquarius moons. What I have observed with being with my best friend and then also with my clients with Aquarius moon is that it's a very much, as you're describing, it's a very cognitive experience to process emotions. Emotions are processed cognitively. They're processed on a cerebral level. So it's like making sense of like the whys and all of the question words, really, like who, what, where, when, why, and like getting the full scope of information is how you process your emotions. So when someone is coming to you and they're like, blah, 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 this person, this bitch, whatever, and you're like, but what is the real root of what you're trying to tell me? And they're like, nothing, just this. Aquarius moon is going to be like, I don't know what to do with this. There's no function for me to emote with you.
Yeah, I've never cared for gossip. I'm more focused like this is taking away from my me time or there's a plan of action, or I will look more deeper. Like if someone comes to me and they're like, she's so loud and that irritates me, blah, blah, I would just be like, okay, so do you know that you're projecting? Like most likely it's a trait you don't like about yourself, which is sometimes you're probably loud in situations you don't need to. And that's probably why you don't like that part right now about this person. So if anything, it's nothing really to do with that person. You don't hate them. It's something you don't like about yourself. So like you should probably work it out. And I feel like if I say that to a friend, they'll be like, shut the fuck up. Can we just like be like normal girlfriends? Just like my time then.
I totally hear you. I am the same way. I mean, because I feel like I recently I was with a hypnotist and she did this sort of like breakdown of like, how do you receive information? And one of the things that she said to me is, she was like, oh, you take everything really literally. I was like, I guess I do. Like when someone tells me something, I take it super literally. And if someone is like, I am really depressed, I'm like, okay, call to action. How are we fixing this? What are we going to do? Like,
Wait,
I
what's
need
your
to
sun?
help out. I'm a Leo.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I think maybe it's a fire sign, because at one time I dated an Aries and like he took everything I said literal. So if I'm like, oh, let's hang out, he was like, oh, right now. And I'd be like, wait, no, I meant like in a couple of hours. He's like, why are you texting me right now then? And I'd be like, what?
Well, that's really Aries. That's really, really Aries. I love that.
Or like if I made a joke or something, like something that I think is funny, he would take it personally. Or like anything I said, it was always so literal. And I was like, oh, wow, like he's very literal. That's interesting. I think it could be, maybe it's a fire sign thing.
Well, I feel like for me, it is a traumatized thing of being in like a very weird household growing up where everything was like very fantastical and like not like concrete. So then when someone would say something, I'd be like, are you serious or are you kidding? Like, I need to know if this is literal or not, or else I cannot compute it. I'm also like, as I said, a Pisces moon. So I'm really, really sensitive. So before I like turn on my sensitivities, I need to know, like, is this worth the floodgate opening? Because if it is not, then like you don't want to know, like you don't want to know how much emotion I'm about to feel. So I need to like measure. I'm also Capricorn rising, so it's like measuring all of that.
Yeah, you gotta come off like a Capricorn for sure. I didn't remember like the way you dress, I feel like is more Leo, because
Yes.
it's like You're dressed so fancy and cute, and you're like, look at me, which is very Leo.
Very
but then the way
Leo.
you're acting is Capricorn. But then when you talk about all these emotions, I'm like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like Pisces moon. I would say like I kind of wish I had more water in my chart, because like I only have 2 waters in my chart, and that's Scorpio, which I feel like is not even
You have more water in your chart than that.
I do.
Yeah. You have your North Node in Pisces. So North Node is your destiny. It's what you're going towards. So you're going towards like this intuitive, mystical, spiritual, and it's in your 5th house of creativity. So it's like you embedding your creative work with more of that intuitive lens. And then you have, what I would say is also really important for you to know, is you have Chiron, which is the wounded healer in Cancer, which is the sign associated with the mother. And it's in your 9th house, which is about like long distance things that are far away. So this could be something also about like your background, being born in Russia, now living in the United States, like how, like it could be something about how international your experience has been. But it's about Cancer, which is about the home. So it's like, what does home mean for you? How do you satiate yourself with nurturing yourself, like vis-a-vis being your own mother? You know, maybe this is like mommy issues. Like maybe your growth is like moving it from the daddy issues to the mommy issues, not in like your mommy issue, but of like you mothering yourself and embracing what it means to like sort of nurture yourself.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
But it sucks because if I change the time right now with you, the houses would change.
Some of these things would change and some of them wouldn't. It depends on
that
how
part sucks.
It depends on how much the time would change.
I think there's like a 3-hour gap that I can't tell which one. So
then remove the house aspect from it and focus just on the planet and the placement, because it won't change. So like you do have a North Node in Pisces for sure.
Sweet. You
do have Chiron in Cancer for sure.
That's sweet, because I mean that makes me feel like maybe that's why I'm a little softer and I try to understand people's feelings, because before I look at my regular chart and it just seems like I don't really have like the emotional signs, and then I was just like, oh man, am I just really harsh? But that makes me happier to know. And I think I do believe my destiny is to be a healer where I can heal and help other people. I am very intuitive and I take on other people's emotions. I understand people's emotions, and I definitely, and I mean, didn't you mean, like, I'm not saying I have any psychic abilities. I'm not going into that, but I do feel like sometimes I can feel other people. And there's been moments that I feel really connected to somebody where if they're going through something and they're having a bad day, I'll reach out and be like, hey, is everything okay? And it's been also twice before where I had a dream that somebody passed away. And then when I woke up, they died.
Really?
Twice. Yeah.
2 times?
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty significant track record.
And I've had also times where something bad was about to happen to me, and then suddenly I had some intuition, which I think is my grandma watching over me. Which I think was a Cancer, so that's what probably was.
Whoa, interesting.
And there's been times where there's this one time where I literally was going to die if I didn't get off the freeway. And every day I was taking the freeway. I was interning in the DA's office, so every day I was taking the freeway to go to downtown, and then and my car was just fixed, by the way, but like I just assumed they did a great job. It was my transmission. And then it was the first time, and I've never taken the hills before. And it was the first time that my brain suddenly something was like, get off the freeway and just take Laurel Canyon. And it was this like intuition, this feeling. And I don't know who was telling me this, but it was just like, why don't we just take the canyon? And I was just like, no, like, so I passed Coldwater, and then again, I feel it. And it's like, just get off the freeway. And I was like, fuck it, like I'll just go take the canyon today. I got off the freeway in Laurel Canyon, and as it was like half a mile to get to the hill, and as I drove up the hill, my transmission broke and I started to go backwards. So I was just like, so every time I pressed the gas, it would go backwards. So I freaked out and had to pull my car into somebody's driveway, but like half of the ass of my car was even out. So people were like honking, having to go around me, but that was so much better. That's how I lived, versus had I stayed on the freeway, I would go backwards on the freeway and I would die.
Whoa. Whoa.
Pretty
I
cool,
mean,
right?
I would say, so first of all, like all of the examples that you're giving to me, you could say it's highly sensitive, you could say it's intuitive, but I would just say that sounds like psychic shit. Because I think psychic is very stigmatized. I think whenever people think of psychics, they think of con artists, but like con artists exist in every industry, not just the psychic industry. Being psychic is just having additional sensory awareness. It's going beyond just the five senses to be able to receive information. So the fact that things are showing up in your dreams, or that you have this like sort of I don't know, like this inner guide being like, do this instead of that, like all of that is having extra sensory abilities, and all of that means that you are psychic.
But it has to do with being a water sign, because like I know Pisces is very strong for Pisces to have psychic abilities, and obviously I'm not a Pisces, but I think it has to do with being a water sign.
Yes, water signs are generally like considered more intuitive, but it also has to do with even just the way that your chart is architected. It has to do with like how different things respond in different ways. Like I am really intrigued by the fact that your Pluto in Scorpio is exactly trine your north node in Pisces. Like that's going to amplify that, like you trusting your intuition and learning how to work with your magical powers for what it's worth, like is actually the more that you dial that up, the more that you're going to be in alignment with how to become the highest version of yourself.
Okay.
Because Pluto is transformation. So it's like large, long-term transformation. And it just so happens that you have Mercury and Pluto conjunct, which means at the same place in your chart. So Mercury is how you communicate. So this is exactly why communicating your truth, communicating, like words are power to you. That's what abracadabra means. It actually means I speak as I say. It's like an ancient Aramaic spell. So for you, that is true. Like words are power. You have the ability to like create and destroy based on the way that you use your language.
Create and destroy based on the way I use my language.
Yeah.
I mean, if my Mercury is in Scorpio, so I feel like Scorpios can sting definitely. So I feel like when I was younger, I definitely knew how to sting someone. I don't do that now.
Yeah, but it doesn't even need to be like the destruction process doesn't need to be negative. Like it could be like, okay, it could be literally you being like, I don't want to, I've created a monster, or like, I don't like this product, or I don't like what I've done here. Like I need to take this down to build something better. It doesn't have to be to harm others. I would say it's never to harm others. That's usually just like when we're younger and we fuck around and we don't know our power.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just wish I knew, I keep looking at my chart. I just wish I knew exactly the time I was born. I feel like that kind of ruins it.
It sucks to not know the exact time, but honestly, like that piece of information about it still being dark is like, I have done so many charts based on like anecdotal information like that to be able to piece things together.
Yeah. Cause like, I'm like, cause if I was born in 9:30 and that's actually my chart, then I would have Sagittarius in my first house, and I would have Venus in Libra in my 10th house. And I feel like that changes everything. But
yeah, and you would have the sun in your 12th house, which is like an extremely psychic placement.
Oh, that would make sense. So
you're like, I'm that one then. Okay, so I would love to, as we are preparing to wrap up, I would love to pull a card for you. That is one of the things that I do on the show.
Yeah, let's do that.
So there are two options. One is my preferred option, and then the other one is another option, but I don't like it. The first option is that I pull a card specifically about something that you want to know about. So like things you have a question about. The second option is that I just pull a card and we see what it is. A little less exciting for me. First option is better. But
obviously let's do love.
Okay, cool. So any more specific info about love? Like, what does love mean for you right now?
I would say I want to do love regarding like my soulmate, because I feel like I'm always just like getting over someone. I feel like I'm very Libra when it comes to love, in a way that like every time. I just love the idea of love, and I try to make it work with like anyone. And sometimes I have to be like, wait, do I even like this person? I just love love. Because like yesterday or 2 days ago, I was sad about a guy, and then my friend literally had to sit with me and be like, V, a week ago you were sad about a different guy, so you don't actually care about this guy from today. And I was like, oh right, that makes so much sense. So I would love to see if there is my actual like partner that's supposed to be like my person is coming in the near future or anytime, or maybe they're in my life, because I'm just kind of tired of dating the wrong people.
Totally. Okay. So what I'm understanding, and maybe what we could do is, what do you need to know about the person who is going to be the one who really shows up in your life in a meaningful way? Does that sound good? Or like,
Yeah.
what energy do you want to be connecting with to invite the person who shows up in a meaningful way?
Yeah. Could I know their zodiac sign?
No. Well, maybe. Actually, maybe. We'll see what the cards say. It might be actually very literal.
Well, have I met them already? Is it someone I haven't met yet? Is it coming anytime soon? Where do I need to be in my life to accept that type of like connection?
I think that the two options here are, we could either do what is the person like, or what do you need to be like in order to meet them? Which one sounds more
I'm
exciting?
perfect.
Okay.
I'm great the way I am, and I'm working myself. So I don't want to do like how I need to change for this person. Like, no, I need them to love me for exactly how I am. So I would love to know what this person is like.
Okay, cool. That sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to work with pile 1, pile 2, or pile 3?
Pile 3.
Perfect. Okay. So let's see, what is this person like? What should we be looking out for? What is the energy that we need to know in order to be able to really know that this is the real deal and not just another bullshit waste of energy? Sound good?
Yeah. In my head, I'm like, should I have done pile 2?
I don't think, no, pile 3 is fabulous. You love pile 3. I love pile 3. Okay. Okay, we got the 7 of Swords. So this is an interesting card, and I kind of want to clarify it because, first of all, for me, I associate this with Libra, and we've already said that, and we already talked about, I don't really like Libra for you. This is also a card of somebody who is, they're being a little bit shady right now. So I'm not sure why we got this card. Is this someone who might be in your life right now who's being a little bit shady, who's channeling who's like you're directing a lot of energy to?
I mean, yeah, I feel like I get that card a lot.
You do?
It's kind of annoying.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there's someone who you're talking to you shouldn't be talking to. There's someone who's wasting your time and who is blocking you from being able to meet someone, I think. Because that's when I get this card, this is like a card of like someone is siphoning your energy. And so that's what the tarot deck is telling me, is that there's a siphoning of energy happening.
Maybe probably the guy I stopped talking to yesterday or 2 days ago.
You just stopped talking to him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. Good. I think that on the other side of that person. So that was the first thing that
so you told me I made the right decision for walking away because he's just wasting my time.
Totally.
Perfect. Great to know.
Totally.
Can we do another card?
Yeah.
I just feel like I'm really unhappy.
We can. Okay. So now that we know that there is a person, well, the tarot tells me information that like I didn't otherwise have. So like I didn't know that there was someone who was just out the door. So that's why we got that card, is because I needed to understand that. So
okay, yeah, let's let him go.
So now that this guy is gone, what is coming next? And what, like in a positive way, like what should we be focusing our energy on coming next? Ooh, Justice. Okay, so interestingly, this is another Libra energy card. So I guess we cannot rule out.
Well, we can also say it's because my Venus is in Libra.
That's right.
Why don't we focus on that?
True. But when I see this card, this is definitely somebody who is like, this is someone who's serious. This is someone who is no bullshit. They have like a very stable job. They have a very stable sort of like life. Like they are not in the process of figuring themselves out. They already have figured themselves out. maybe they have already even like been married. Maybe they have like gone through a relationship where they had to learn a lot and now, and like work out all of like the kinks. And now they are ready and they are like very sort of firm in what their belief system is. They have a very strong moral compass. So I think what this also means is that, and the reason that we got these two cards is because if this guy was still like around, this guy would not tolerate it. You know what I mean? Like this guy would be like, do not, like, if you're talking to this person, you're not actually ready to meet me. So this is the card that's saying like, when you are really ready to meet someone who is like on like serious, he's going to be there, but you also can't have, you know, 7 of swords waiting in the wings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like clearing out all of the bullshit so that you can actually like, because this guy is going to be like, oh, are you talking to anyone else? And you're going to have to say, no, I'm not. And then they're going to be like, okay, great. You're actually interested in trying to make something work. This person does not want you to have multiple like feet in multiple doors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's about like narrowing the, and then let's pull one more card just to get a sense of, do you know this person already, or is it someone new you're going to meet?
Okay.
Oh, it's such a cute card. It's one of my favorites. Here we have the 6 of Cups. It's like literally puppy love. This is someone who definitely has a crush on you already. I'm not sure if you know them, but it's someone about your same age too. It's not someone significantly older or younger. It's a peer.
Okay.
So it's someone who is sort of like, who admires you already, or maybe you admire them already. I would guess that there is some sense of like knowing about each other.
Wow, I'm really confused then.
You're like, wow, that really doesn't help at all.
Okay, there are 2 guys that I just ended it with. One of them I'm more sad about than the other one. One I can't be with because he's, for a lot of reasons. The other one just felt like more of a better fit for me because personality wise, he has certain traits that I like, but like he was wasting my time. And with him, it was more like I ended it like a day or 2 ago. So then that's probably where the swords come from. Then the justice one. I mean, all the cards, the 3 cards that you show me right now, when I read my own cards, I get those pretty often.
Really?
So like, yeah.
Oh,
so
interesting.
like,
I love that.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think that the person might have already been married and like, but it's not in a, like a gross way.
I don't feel like I would date someone that's divorced.
Really? But they would have already like they would have already like figured out how to not be an asshole in their previous marriage.
Okay. This doesn't have to be part of the podcast, but should we like, just in case, maybe do pile 2?
I've comboed them.
Okay, fair. Okay.
But do you have enough? If you have one more question, we can do one more question.
Okay.
And if pile 2 needs to tell us something, it will reemerge.
Okay. My question is, if it's about love, then my question is, do I go back to the past of anyone I've been with? Okay, no, that's not my question.
No.
Okay, then.
Do I regress? Do I do the opposite of growing? Do I go backwards?
Yeah, my question is then, shoot, my questions are all so vague.
It's okay. I can help you work through it. I mean, let's go back.
What does the future hold with my career?
Okay, that's a really good one. So shifting gears from romance to career.
Yeah, because I'm not happy with the romance questions. I don't understand. I feel like I'm confused. So I just rather focus on my career.
Well, romance questions, very easy answers for you, which is take away anyone who's wasting your time so that when you meet the person who is like really very available and ready to show up and he's like, oh, are you fucking around with other people? You're going to be like, no, I'm not. And then he's gonna be like, okay, she's really serious. The person who is serious is not going to tolerate like fuckboys being in the picture. That's what the romance answer is.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think that they are waiting, like they can't tell if you're serious or not about being serious, you know?
Okay. But should I ask if it's someone I know?
I think that
Partner, or you?
it's someone who you both, it's either he knows you or you know him, but it's not like deep. It's not like you know each other. It's, you would only know each other, know of each other, or it's peripheral.
Okay.
It's not someone who's in your life right now, is the point.
Okay. Okay. So what's happening with my career? Where's it progressing?
What do we need to know about your career, next steps, next direction? Oh, this card just hopped out. Ooh, 9 of Cups. You are, this is really very fabulous. So it looks like you are in the final stages of finishing up something that's going to begin a whole new journey for you. And it's really about like dotting all of your I's and crossing your T's and making sure everything is ready to launch, because you haven't done it yet, but you're on the precipice of doing it. And once it does, it's going to be a really big change and transformation for your career.
Okay.
But it's like, you just have to make sure that everything is ready. Like, you know, go around and like, make sure like, okay, what's going on in all these 9 cups, you know, like everything filled, everyone good, or is everything where it needs to be in order for this to come into the world?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm at the end of launching my shop, relaunching my online shop, Daddy Issue Shop, and I'm also rebranding my podcast.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah. So then just like keep doing those little details, and then it's going to unearth even more opportunities.
Okay.
Yay. Well, thank you so much. I hope that this was more illuminating than confusing, but you know, we're dealing with the metaphysical stuff, so it could be a little bit of both. So where can our listeners find you? Where can we connect with you? What should we be looking out for? What's that 9 of Cups energy we should be anticipating?
Everyone can find me on my personal Instagram, Violent Benson, my meme account at daddyissues_, or my podcast, Too Tired to Be Crazy, available on every platform, and new episodes every Thursday. And I'm planning on rebranding that. So I'm really excited for that because I just got a new team. And then my shop is launching hopefully by the end of July. It's going to be Shop Daddy Issues, and I'm really excited for it. So yeah, I can't wait.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.